A convoy of Russian vehicles moving along the highway. The occupiers don't know that Ukrainian drones are nearby. The first one hits an armored vehicle. The second one is in a tank. This doesn't stop the Russians, and the T-90 rushes forward, but the AFU's kamikaze drone is already catching up. The explosion is so powerful due to the detonation of the ammunition. The drone hits the shells, and the tank turns into a fireball. The explosion was so powerful that it ripped through the armor from the inside, leaving the tank in pieces. The UAV zooms out, and now you can see the entire column. The hatch on the turret of this Russian tank is open. A single grenade is enough to burn the tank, which costs from 2.5 million US dollars, and the drone calmly flies away. Does it look like these vehicles are exploding on their own? The small UAV is invisible against the background of the combat vehicle. Its explosive charge cannot tear through enemy armor like that. But the Ukrainian pilots have a knowledge of the design of the occupiers' equipment. A single FPV is enough to detonate the ammunition. The first drone strike, and the Russian tank is intact. As you can see, not for long. After the first hit, a series of explosions follow. The turret of one of the tanks was blown off. Another one set off fireworks during the detonation. The battlefield is covered with smoke from the burning equipment of the occupiers. The explosions continue. A Russian APC is hiding near the tank that was hit earlier. The pilot of the AFU drone figured out the trick. The explosion was so powerful that pieces of the vehicle were scattered all over the neighborhood. The lower part of the Russian vehicle was driven into a crater, and fragments of the hull were bent by the explosion as if it were foil rather than armored metal that can be easily picked up by hand. Russian vehicles are taking up positions to fire. The occupiers' tanks and infantry fighting vehicles have started firing, but the FPV is already approaching. The pilot sees everything from the first person until the moment he hits the gun of a Russian tank, but on other electronic warfare equipment. The signal of the kamikaze drone disappears too soon, but the Ukrainian pilot was ready for this. The main screen shows what the observer drone sees. At the bottom is the FPV image. When the Ukrainian kamikaze drone catches up with the target from the rear, it crashes and detonates. This moment of impact is recorded by the observer drone, so we can be sure of the destruction of the occupiers' equipment. The FPV accelerates, and despite the lack of signal, flies into the rear of the tank on inertia. Pay attention to the size of the fireball. Such a powerful explosion is the result of the detonation of the ammunition. The tank is left in pieces in the middle of a burning field. A Ukrainian drone flies into the tank's turret. At first glance, the explosion is insignificant, but it is followed by a fire and a large-scale detonation. The column of fire does not immediately make it clear that the tank's turret was simply blown off. Now it is burning next to the hull, which is also being consumed by fire from the inside. A Ukrainian kamikaze drone flies into an enemy vehicle right into an open compartment. It is an empty combat vehicle that has been hit and abandoned, but it was important to destroy it completely. Otherwise, the occupiers could have evacuated it and repaired it. The Russian APC has a special structure above the turret that takes the hit in case of a Ukrainian drone hit. The first grenade blindly tears off the front edge of the mesh and opens the hatch. The second grenade hits exactly there. The explosion from the inside slowly ignites, but in a few minutes, the drone records that the enemy's equipment is on fire beyond repair. As a finale, there is a powerful explosion. The fire reached the shells inside the hull of the Russian APC. The detonation of already burning vehicles looks epic, doesn't it? The remains of the combat vehicle fly up slightly from this final chord. The charge flies away, scattering a sheaf of sparks. It is difficult to fly a drone at night, but the camera clearly captures the ammunition hitting the hatch of the Russian tank. It caught fire from the inside. The drone had to fly, and we were able to verify the effectiveness of the strike in the morning. The drone returned and recorded that the Russian tank was still burning at dawn. After so many hours of fire, its iron and electronic insides were beyond repair. The Russians are moving along a road that is already full of the remains of their equipment from previous breakthroughs. The invaders were met again. As evidenced by the first dump, a tank fires its cannon to the side, but it is caught up by a kamikaze drone. The armor holds up, but the tank cannot fire anymore and retreats. Not far away, another drone hit with a more significant result, minus a unit of occupation military equipment. The combination of Mavic-type UAVs and kamikaze drones yields a stunning result. The two Russian combat vehicles stood side by side, turning into an ideal target. They are hit in turn. The occupier's equipment goes up in flames. The Russian tank left a fresh track behind it, opening up its position. Mavic has tracked them down, and the FPV takes off to strike. He strikes under the turret. After a flash, a huge column of smoke rises. There is fire in the depths. This is how our friends from the 71st Jaeger Brigade destroy the enemy. They are carrying out tasks on the Kharkov direction and asked us for help. They need 5 of these Starlinks. The price of one is $500. Our task is to help them buy at least one of them. If you trust us, details are on the screen and in the description. We'll report back as soon as the Starlinks are delivered to the troops. Here's everyone who helped us last time. Thank you so much. Russian vehicles are constantly undergoing modifications. Armor is being improved. The arsenal is increasing, but an open hatch is always a weak point. A precise grenade drop and an explosion. Here is a super powerful tank scattering fireworks around. The fire was accompanied by such effective emissions, long enough for everything to be enveloped in smoke. But when it dissipated, it became clear that the tank had burned through. Another epic volley of flashes from the detonation of machine gun ammunition was a perfect ending. The Ukrainian Mavic saw the occupier's tank behind the shelter of a house. The Russians' powerful electronic warfare system began to jam the FPV signal from afar. But the Ukrainian pilot directed the drone with a canopy. Mavic filmed a hit right into the turret. If the drone had to work with drops, an experienced pilot could use a grenade to hit the gap between the hatch and the protective mesh. The design on the turret didn't help, but only because the experience and skill of the AFU pilot has reached a jewelry level of accuracy. And this is not a unique case. Drone pilots are constantly faced with mechanical defenses, such as nets and metal flaps on enemy tanks. To overcome such protection, you need to look for the right angle to drop the grenade and calculate the trajectory of the grenade. But the result is worth the effort. When the Maverick rises, the camera covers a large area. The entire field is dotted with burning enemy vehicles, which leave a trail of smoke. After that, hitting the open hatch of a Russian tank with no protective structures with a mock-up is almost like a leisure activity. Unfortunately for the AFU, such vehicles are rare. Most Russian tanks already have primitive, but generally effective protection. These designs are artisanal and therefore unique. That's why every attack on a Russian tank turns into a puzzle. But its ending is a spectacular explosion of the enemy's equipment. Look how the tank's turret is torn out and thrown to the height of the second floor by the explosion. Now it's a pile of scrap metal. The drone recorded the movement of the Armored Repair and Recovery Vehicle 1, which was pulling a T-72 tank after evacuation. Explosion! It was a Ukrainian FPV that intercepted them and attacked the tow truck. A hit set fire to its turret, which quickly turned into a huge fire. In a matter of seconds, it detonated. The tow truck is now beyond repair. After that, the AFU find this tank in the shelter. Pay attention to what lies next to it. Yes, they're mines. Several drones fly out to the enemy. The first strikes are unsuccessful, but the third drone targets the mines, not the tank. And this is the result. A blast of incredible force wipes the can off the face of the earth, and these tanks are left abandoned in the field. A skilled Ukrainian pilot was nearby. The first hit causes a fire. Now it's the final blow. The guns are especially dangerous because they are long-range, have a large caliber, and it is extremely difficult to calculate their location before firing. But once they're detected, HIMARS is easily dealt with. Thank you for watching.